Hey guys, Karibo Bros here, and we've got a Blue Eyes White Dragon Speed Duel deck profile. So obviously Blue Eyes is the most iconic card in Yu-Gi-Oh! And a fan favourite, and has been played in Speed Duel since it first came out in the first structure decks. The thing about this format is it's quite easy to get the Lord of D out with a Flute Summoning Dragon to bring out a Blue Eyes White Dragon. So the deck has an inherent problem that Blue Eyes naturally has 3000 attack and it cannot get over Moth, which is 3500. So we've built this deck in a way that we can outlive our opponents, and then our side deck will address the main issue of Moth. So playing a 20 card main deck, and we'll get into the deck, talk about the ratios and a bit of the probability on seeing certain cards. So we'll start off the skill card, Dragon Caller. I really do like this card. I think it's a really good skill. Once per duel, you can use one of the following skills. If you successfully summon a Lord of D, you can add one Flute of Summoning Dragon from your deck or graveyard to your hand. That's it's relevant. Sometimes you might choose to get a copy from the graveyard. Reveal one Flute of Summoning Dragon from your hand and add one Lord of D from your deck to your hand. So using there's hypergeometric calculators on the internet, you have 3 copies of Lord of D and 3 copies of Flute of Summoning Dragon. So the chances of opening one of those 6 cards in your starting hand of 4 is something about 79%. So we are most likely getting this off. So we put the skill to one side. We have 3 copies of Lord of D. It's our main normal summon of the deck, and we use it to enable Dragon Caller to hopefully summon out a Blue Eyes White Dragon or a Red Eyes in our turn. So we use it to build board presence. We play the 4th pseudo copy of Lord of D, which is Kaiban. Something to note about Lord of D is that remember, when you have Lord of D on the field, your opponent cannot target dragons you control. They have to target this first. Well, they have to remove this to target dragons. So your opponent can't use Parasite Paranoid on a dragon we control to then tribute it. They have to equip Parasite Paranoid to Lord of D. And as I say, Catman is the pseudo 4th copy of Lord of D, where it just helps us easily bring out a Blue Eyes from deck. 3 copies of the most famous card in Yu-Gi-Oh!, Blue Eyes White Dragon. So with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duel Devastator box that's coming out in November with 220 new cards, which I'm really excited for. I'm hoping we might get a bit more Blue Eye support. I doubt we'd ever get any of these synchro monsters, etc. But we might get, I don't know, there's just a lot of Blue Eye support that's been printed recently. We might even get a skill card that could be something along the lines of the Qatar card, the spell card that searches 2 copies of Blue Eyes, or we might even get a Blue Eyes alternative White Dragon as a skill. That's in dueling, so there's a lot of ways this deck could go in the future with new support, quite possibly. But only 3 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon. Play 2 copies of Red Eyes Black Dragon. The reason I still choose to play Red Eyes over cards such as Tyrant Dragon is because this is a vanilla and we can search it off Summoner's Art. 3 copies of Sphere Karibo, because there are times when, given the fact we only have 4 normal summons in this deck, we will have to just stall for a while to get our cards out. 3 copies of the 2nd enabler of the deck, Flute of Summoning Dragon, so we can reveal this to add Lord of D from our deck to our hand. 1 copy of one copy of Summoner's Art, just so we have 6. We have a pseudo 6 of 6 vanilla dragons in the deck, and obviously we can thin the deck out with this. So deck thinning equals deck winning. Biggest problem this deck does have, and it always has had, is not opening the combo, which is a way to get into the Lord of D to summon out a dragon from your hand. So to address that issue, we play some stall cards. Zoma the Spirit. So obviously we'll summon this in defense mode. It's got 1800 attack and it's got 500 defense. When it's destroyed by battle, our opponent takes burn damage equal to the monster that destroyed this monster's. Yeah, our opponent takes burn damage equal to the monster's attack that destroyed this. So we have to make our opponent think how they're going to play, otherwise we could put them on a burn clock. And 2 copies of Nightmare Wheel. So if our opponent does summon out a big threat, such as Dark Moth, we can equip Nightmare Wheel, put them on a burn clock, and hopefully address the issue that way. Now, as I say, this deck isn't great against Dark Moth, which is obviously the best deck of the format, so we have a side deck to hopefully level the playing field. You've got options to side in 2 copies of Bear Stream of Destruction. What would we take out in the guards for this? We could possibly take out the Zomas. We could maybe take out the Sphere Creepers. It may hurt the consistency of the deck, but this is just a way to board wipe. Also, this card is notably great against 1000 Dice Restrict and Relinquished. Obviously, if they're destroyed by battle, the equip card will die first, so it's a great way to out problem cards like that, and obviously Moth having more than 3000 attack. 2 copies of Aerosol. It's another board wipe for insects, so if we're coming up against maybe a pure Moth variant or even still Dark Moth, we can just use this to out Moth. And for just rogue matchups, I guess, like Relinquished and or Skull Servant, we have the 2 copies of Possessed Dark Soul. Tribute this to take control of all our opponents' level 3 or lower monsters they control. As I say, Blue Eyes is not the best deck, and it is not as good as it originally was when Speedle first came out, but it's still really enjoyable, and people still like playing Blue Eyes because of how iconic it is in the series. So let me know what you think below. If you would make any changes, if you've got any suggestions that could be made to help improve the deck, or maybe help the deck just compete more consistently against Dark Moth, let us know. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.